Wrestling, the War Room.
2001, it was an awful year. 9/11, the Afghanistan war starts. Anthrax, some idiot puts anthrax in envelopes and sends it by mail. Another idiot puts explosives in his shoes and tries to board a plane. And now we all have to take our stinky shoes off when we go to the airport. But 2001 wasn't all bad. In fact, there were some glorious moments. The Xbox was introduced. Adam Tirapelle won a national championship at 149. And that's who's in the War Room today. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, Adam Tirapelle won an NCAA national championship in 2001, but he also finished second the year before and third the year before that. In high school, he won 2 California state championships, and he was the team captain at Illinois for 3 years. He won the Dyke Edelman Award for Male Athlete of the Year at Illinois, and he was a 2-time Most Valuable Wrestler. Adam is also in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's got numerous accomplishments that are noted in the record book. Second in single season wins with 39, second in career wins with 127, only eclipsed by his brother Alex with 128, sixth in career win percentage at 858, sixth in single season pins with 10, third in career pins with 33, as well as 9th and 11th in single season win percentage. Now, those are all glorious accomplishments, Adam, but there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you destroyed that 1986 Subaru wagon by not putting oil in it in high school.
That is true.
You admit that?
My dad tries to say that, but no, I think that car was on its last leg, but that's how he does stuff.
Okay, I got that from your brother. So you got punked by Alex.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You can get him back someday. Now,
I like it.
I want to get back to the national championship here in a little bit, but first, I want to ask you this, of course. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Braveheart.
Braveheart. If you were in this room right now, I'd punch you in the face. I'm just kidding. That's a good movie. What about cartoon growing up?
Favorite cartoon? Man, I don't know. There was a lot of them. We went through the G.I. Joe and that. I liked He-Man when I was a little kid. And then I forget as I grew older, but lots of different cartoons. We liked them.
Awesome. So the Tirapelles sometimes, when they weren't wrestling, watched the TV.
Yeah, a lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of TV in our house.
Okay. Well, let's start your journey into wrestling. What's your first memory of wrestling?
Let's see. So when I started wrestling, it was just like, a couple of coaches' kids basically at off season. I guess, now I know they're off season, like freestyle tournaments. That was all you used to have outside of the folk style season. My dad was a coach. And I remember wrestling another little kid. His name was Gary Crago. And there's still pictures we both had, on the short shorts of the, early 80s and just T-shirts. And we just went out there and wrestled. And like I said, it was just me and, some other coaches' kids that wrestled. We didn't have youth wrestling like we have now.
Wow. So how old do you think you were?
I think I got thrown out there about 6 or 7, but it was, we just kind of, flopped around on each other. I can remember, starting to wrestle and do more wrestling stuff when I was about 9, a lot more, 8, 9. Then I was actually, really trying to practice and learn a little bit about the sport.
So did you tag along with your father to practice?
Yeah. I was a gym rat, grew up, he coached and taught high school and coached. And, I'd always go over to practice. And, it started out, I was obviously much, much smaller and younger than the other kids, but I'd always run around and, do the warm-ups, do the push-ups with them. And so I just wanted to be part of the team. I think that's how a lot of coaches' kids are. You just, you want the kids to like you and be part of the team. So I was always used to being around older kids.
Well, I saw in one interview, your dad bragged about you saying that you were leading the JV practice when you were 10. His high school JV team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when you're a kid, right? You don't know that you're not really part of the team. I felt like I was part of the team. I'd help, coach the kids. I got older and knew more about the sport. I'd help coach the kids and warm up with them and, do everything. I remember one of the things I used to always argue with my mom about was I always wanted to go to the tournaments on Friday because I would go to practice. So I felt like I was part of the team. And she's like, "You're not getting out of school. You're going to class." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm part of the team. I need to go." So at the end of the year, she would basically let me. So the give up was I got to go to one postseason tournament on Friday, and then I got to go to the state tournament on Friday. So I got 2 Fridays a year that I got to go with the team, which I felt like wasn't enough. But it's funny in hindsight because I really wasn't part of the team, but I like being around them.
So you get to college or high school. You get to high school and you're in which high school?
So Hiram Johnson, it's a city school in Sacramento. That's where my dad taught and coached. So I ended up going through there. We didn't live by there per se. We were about 15 minutes away, but that's where he was, and so that's where I ended up going to school and wrestled for them for 3 years until my family moved down to the Clovis area when I was a senior. And
that's where you won your first state championship, is that?
Yeah, first state championship for the school, first state championship for the for the league. We were, like I said, we were city schools, so it'd be like I know they in Illinois it's Chicago Public League, or maybe not quite that level, but again, Sacramento City schools. We weren't we weren't great at a lot of stuff. We had good basketball, but we didn't have a lot of wrestling success. And my dad made that program pretty successful, but there'd never been a state champ in the league in however many years that had gone on, and so I was the first one, so it was pretty cool.
That's crazy. Well, then you went to Buchanan. You won your second state championship. And
yeah,
you're also wrestling for your father there?
Technically not. So I moved down. We moved down. My dad got the job at the junior high school. I kind of agreed to that. Said, "Hey, I don't have to be the coach. I'm happy to help out wherever you need." And so he got the job at the junior high school. Although he would come up and coach the high school as well, or help coach the high school. But the coach was Chris Hansen at Buchanan, and he's a good guy, still a good friend of ours to this day. Still works in the district. So I didn't actually, I said technically wrestle for Dad, but that was a big part of the program.
Yeah. Well, then obviously you looked at colleges, and colleges must have been looking at you. And I've heard stories about Mark Johnson and your father talking to him. Can you relate any of that? Anything funny, especially?
Yeah. So I was at the junior nationals. This is back in the day. Again, sound like the old uphill both ways in the snow guy, but this is the truth. So back in the day, I mean, we didn't have all the youth wrestling, all the events that happen now where, kids Super 32 and all these different things. So basically Fargo was it. It was what everybody went to. And it was it was separate times. So all the good cadets could go to juniors. It was the old weights, which were, 9, 10, 11 pounds apart. So it's basically like, it was a preview to college. There was a ton of people, including myself, that did way better in college than we did at Fargo because it was just that difficult. And it was, and whatever your system was, some state systems were better than others. So anyway, we're back at junior nationals, and I'm wrestling, and I'm in, I want to say 132 pounds as a junior. And my dad, as you know him, would just walk up to college coaches and just start talking to them. That's just his MO. So he'll just introduce himself and start talking to people. And we were watching at the time. It was TJ Williams was in my weight, and we'd heard how good this TJ Williams kid was. But this is familiar to anybody who knows TJ or has watched him. But like, he doesn't really look that good when you watch him until you wrestle him. Like it's not like he does anything that's super special. You just realize that he's a ridiculous athlete, and you can't actually stop his double leg, or it's very difficult. And he's
like Ed Ruth. He's just like
100%
effortless.
Yeah, it looks easier than it really should be for most mortal people. They make it look a lot easier. So anyway, so my dad's talking to Mark Johnson, and he again, my dad, he's super frank and forward, and he tells Mark, he says, "Hey, this TJ Williams kid, I've heard he's really good, but he doesn't look like he's that good." And Mark, I think the story, Mark can confirm, but I think the story, Mark turned to him and said, if your kid can stay within 10 points, I'll be impressed. And kind of like, this kid's like phenomenal. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we ended up wrestling, and TJ beat me, I want to say 9-8. Really good match back and forth, but he always seemed to beat me. And that was kind of like, Mark's like, oh, this kid's really good. Like, maybe we should talk to him. So, and my dad, I was interested in going out of state, and even though I was from California, so that was kind of the original how we started talking to, or how I started talking to Illinois.
But then you ended up at Stanford.
Ended up at Stanford. Yeah, kind of. You're young, you're not really sure what you want. Loved wrestling, but Stanford's a great education, and I was, and I was pretty smart, and that was important to me. But you just made a bad decision. You just don't know exactly what you should do. It's why it's so hard to, for kids nowadays to choose, and they're committing earlier and earlier. We didn't commit till we were seniors. I want to say it was the end of my senior year that.
But you say you're seniors, but you're still 18.
Yeah, for sure.
Very young.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to Stanford. Wasn't the right fit. Bad decision. Nothing against Stanford or the program. It's just, hey, you got to find something that's right for you. The right fit. And I really wanted to wrestle, and it wasn't the program that I wanted it to be. And so, fortunately for me, it ended up working out. I was able to transfer after that year. Illinois still needed people, still needed somebody at that weight class. And it worked out.
I heard, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard your father call up Mark Johnson, and they had a conversation.
Yeah, I think Dad called him up. Again, I didn't tell him to do this, but I think he just called him up one night. And of course, my dad has no concept of time, so he probably called it 8:00 Pacific, which is 10 in Illinois. And I think he told Mark that I didn't like Stanford, and Mark's like, yeah, too bad, or kind of like, yeah, not surprising, and hung up. Anyway, but yeah, no. Then I ended up reaching out to Mark later and just saying, hey, listen, made a mistake, but I know you didn't sign anybody, because I knew the kids that he was trying to sign, and they ended up, I think it was Reggie and a few of the other guys, they ended up going, went to junior college or whatever. So they didn't end up at Illinois. And so I told him, I said, you don't have to recruit me. I'm coming. If you can still offer, still have money for me to come there, I'm coming. I'm in. And it didn't, it almost didn't work out. I know they, were recruiting other people at the time for the next year. So, said, fortunately, you'd have to get more from Mark and Jim on that story, but I know it was kind of back and forth. And I told them, I'm like, hey, I got to make a decision, because, I didn't want to get too far into it where everybody had already given their money away, scholarship wise. And, I think, so Mark and I were kind of pissed at each other. I remember, because I wanted, I want him to make a decision. Mark's a loyal guy. And honestly, why we're so great friends and why Illinois was so phenomenal. He's a loyal guy. He's a family guy. And I know he was recruiting another kid, I think, that ended up going to Wisconsin. I forget his name in the interim, but he didn't want to renege on what he'd promised. And I appreciate that. But it just, almost didn't work out. So I remember he called me in the morning. It was a morning for college. So that was probably like 8:00, but whatever it was, he called, and he's like, if you basically just said, hey, I want you to come to Illinois. And I remember saying, if I come, are we going to try to win a national championship? He's like, we're going to try. I go, okay, I'm in.
Well, he had to see what I see. I don't know if anybody else has said this, but you are like a smaller Mark Johnson. I mean, in physical build, in looks, you look like his son, his child.
And yeah, we had a lot in common. We really did.
I've seen him in his glory days with the singlet on. He had the same massive thighs, the same massive biceps that Adam Tirapelle has. And I know you also look like Steve Tirapelle. So, it's a conglomeration of awesome. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he had to see that and realize that too, that it was like kismet. It had to happen.
Yeah, I think you'd have to ask, but I think Jim finally told him, like, hey, like, we wanted this kid. I know you're irritated. I mean, because Mark's a guy principal, and he's a proud guy. And he said, what are we doing? Like, this guy wants to come here. he's, we don't have to recruit him. He's ready to sign. But however they ended up working that out, it worked out, and it was great for them, great for me. And said I should have done it in the first place, but sometimes things work out for a reason. I think I was that much more committed and prepared to go away. I mean, I was willing to do anything at that point to be a part of a great team, a great program. And so I didn't take it for granted. So like I said, things work out for a reason. I don't know if I would have been as good if I'd have went to Illinois directly. But after I had experience that I wasn't sure about, or realized that, hey, this isn't what I want, I was that much more locked in. So,
well, that was the start of that golden age. It was the start of a golden age, that's for sure. Because with you, Lockhart, Quirk, all those guys, doing big things at the NCAA tournament, the Big Ten tournaments. But when you first got to Illinois, it sounded like it was a little rough, especially in the practice room.
Yep. So I got there.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I got there, and, I'd already been in college a year, and expected to do well my first year. In the first couple practices. I mean, college is a different level, and then I'm going from Stanford level to Big Ten level, and I remember the first couple of practices. So we didn't score a point, and went through. I think we started on Thursday, and then didn't score on Thursday, which is kind of ridiculous, or at least I thought it was. And then on Friday, did it again, didn't score. And then we got our nameplates. This is one of the stories everybody loves to tell. We got our nameplates on Friday to put on our lockers, and I wouldn't put mine up. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to make a scene. It was just like, I'm not putting this up. You can't score a point. You're not part of the team. So on Saturday, we had another chance. We did our morning practice on Saturday, kind of like start the season with 3 practices, and then have a chance to rest the rest of the weekend. And Saturday still didn't score. So it was a rough first 3 days, but as I said, you got to keep coming back, and the next week finally got a takedown, finally did something positive, and I got to put my nameplate up, but it shows how fast, if you're committed. I mean, so by the end of the year I was top 12 in the nation.
Yeah.
But the first couple of days, it was like, hey, welcome to a new level, and you just gotta quickly assimilate and start getting better.
Well, you go from scoring 0 for the first 3 days in practice to finishing up the year in the blood round. And then the next year, really big things start happening. How did you change to become that much better?
I think it's just consistency. I mean, I still coach, I've been coaching for 18 years and tell kids what it takes. And, in anything, it's like one of my favorite quotes is that people overestimate what they can accomplish in a short period of time. It's the same people that want to go to the gym as soon as the new year happens, and they spend 3 weeks and don't get the results they want, and they're done. But you underestimate what you can accomplish over a long period of time. I was a guy that I never took breaks. I mean, it was, when we took 2 weeks after the season, I mean, that's your break, right? But I had to be focused on a goal. I was a goal-driven person. I had to see things that I wanted to do, and then be driving for them all the time. So I don't think there was anything magical. I think it was just, a good year of work. My first year there, I didn't have all the off season with the program. And so I got to the top 12 my freshman year, and then just got right back to it, lifting weights, running, wrestling in the off season, pretty religiously. And then had all that time between April, May, June, July, August, September, coming back to campus, and then, continuing right through the season. So, just consistency and good effort, and having goals, and staying focused.
Well, that year you got third, and who did you beat? Who did you lose to? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so I always kind of had I would always start off pretty strong during the year. I wasn't a great weight cutter. We didn't have, by that time, the weights had switched where we didn't have to cut a bunch of weight anymore. But I wasn't a great weight cutter. And And the Big Ten season's grueling. It really does. It wears you down. And not that I was losing a lot of weight, but I kind of, it just kind of started wearing on me a little bit through the middle of the year in January. I lost a couple of matches I probably shouldn't have lost. And then got to the Big Ten tournament. I think I got third there that year, got fourth the year before. And then, but I could always get up to the nationals. Like I said, I always felt like I put in the work. I was always at my best at the nationals. I think I was a 7th seed, and I ended up beating Reggie Wright, who was the 2nd seed in the quarters, and then came back again and beat him for 3rd. So I was a 7th seed, but ended up 3rd in the tournament. And I'm trying to think of some of the guys I lost to. I know I lost to the Minnesota kid. I can't remember what his name was, but I lost to him at the duel, and then I lost to him at the Big Ten tournament. I also lost to the Michigan kid I never should have lost to.
Well, that brings up, you mentioned Reggie Wright, you got TJ Williams, you got Tony Davis. That was just a golden era for that weight. And you were smack dab in the middle of it, winning championships and earning medals and all kinds of things. Now, the next year after that, you make it to the national final. Tell us about that, because I watched that video. I'm going to show it on screen here. It looked to me like you got a little bit lucky with the out of bounds calls, but that Tony Davis got a little bit lucky with the fact that there was no Logan Stieber rule, no Jordan Oliver, Logan Stieber rule at that time, because you had your arms wrapped around him. He's on his butt and your head was right there, and it could have been called. Well, it would be called now. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's always little things. Yeah, I mean, there's the rules were different then, but we were wrestling the rules they gave us. I mean, Tony did almost get me on my back with that bottom leg cradle. I've talked about that before. Had to use a lot of energy to try to balance on one arm and get my way out of bounds. But yeah, I mean, Tony was. I've talked about Tony, and I know he just had that big series with Wrestling Changed My Life, and the guy was the best athlete I ever wrestled. I mean, he was just incredibly fast and explosive and super strong. I mean, like, not like weight room strong, but just like explosion. Like, he just blow you up before you even knew what happened. And so you always had to kind of be wary early and try to stay close to him, because he could get ahead of you by a lot. But I really thought I was going to win that match. I'd wrestled him before and lost in, back then it was ultimate tiebreaker. I think, right out in, it was one of the few overtime matches I wrestled in college. And I thought I was going to win that match. But just didn't get the opportunities. I had that one takedown, didn't quite get. And then we got into overtime, and I was, thinking I probably needed to score, because he'd done pretty well in the 30-30 before. And that's what we used to have, just 30-30 and then ultimate tiebreaker. So he ended up getting me, but he good guy to lose to. He's a stud. And
it looked to me like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it looked to me like you guys both shot at the same time, and it just so happened that he fell on top of you instead of you falling on top of him.
So I tried to slide an underhook, and I just kind of missed. I just kind of didn't get inside his elbow. And so when I went to step forward and kind of slide it, he just dropped and dropped to a single leg. So it was kind of both. Yeah, a little bit both at the same time. I just got out of position a little bit, but I think I was pressing a little bit more because, like I said, I felt like I probably needed to score. And there's a lot of game. There's a lot of, mental. There's a lot of game behind the game that goes on in wrestling. I mean, people don't know. They just kind of see two guys out there scrapping, but there's a lot that goes into it. And you're always, if you're going to be good, you got to be thinking about, where you're at, how you can win all the time. And not that you're not wrestling hard, but like I said, I think I probably felt like I needed to score a little bit more in the overtime, and he probably was a little bit more comfortable if he had to go to the 30-30. So that's just how it worked out. Yeah.
Well, and then that 30-30 would work out pretty well for John Lockhart next year. So I guess it depends. Now, we're talking about this like it's a funeral, but that's second in the country. You just won third in the country the year before. And then the next year, 2001, it's a horrible year, but something glorious happens. Tell us how you won that championship.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make a few changes, start a little slower during the season, so I had a little bit more toward the end. got through the season and won most of the matches. Got beat by Jared Lawrence in the Big Ten finals, who was a great wrestler, and we'd wrestled a couple of times before that. That was the first time he beat me though. And I just kind of tried to beat him in his own game a little bit. He was a great pace guy and really could keep you off balance pretty well, with his movement. And I'd wrestled a poor match in the duel against him and won maybe 3-2. And we were kind of talking to each other afterwards, he was like, hey, you were stalling. And I'm like, basically, fuck you, I won. And, but that didn't happen too often, but like he was irritated and, hey, you're competitors, right? But I did respect him. And like I said, I tried to show him a little bit that, hey, I can wrestle a lot harder than that. I don't know why I got so tired in the duel. Again, the weight loss thing was always tough for me with the 1 hour. And in the Big Ten finals, I just got behind, and he just beat me pretty good. Could wrestle hard, but he was just a better wrestler that day. And so, respected the loss, but, I'd been in the nationals before and came up short and just thought, hey, got one more chance. I know what I need to do to win. Got through the first couple of matches pretty good.
And Lawrence was the second seed. And you were the third seed.
Yep. So then I got Lawrence.
And that name again, Reggie Wright, was what, the first seed?
Yeah, Reggie. We didn't wrestle that year. I beat Reggie, I think, a couple of different times, but yeah, we didn't wrestle that year. And so according to the seeding, he was number one, and I lost to Lawrence. And I think trying to think if it was Nadalski that year at Michigan State. That's a whole different story. That was the old where you wrestled Michigan State and everybody in the Big Ten got to hire their own referees. And whenever we wrestled at Michigan State, they hired this guy that would come in with a 1970s jacket. And I'm telling you, it was, think about this, right? Like, you hire your own referee. Seriously, if he doesn't call it the way you want it called, he doesn't come back. It was literally the worst, stupidest system ever created. But that's the way it was when we wrestled. And, like if you went to Carver, then they hired their own referee and he called it the way I wanted it called. And it was ridiculous. So anyway, this one guy that we would wrestle, we would have ref us, was only pretty much at Michigan State. And I lost a match to, I think it was Nadalski. And I made like every shot in the match and he just footballed my head the whole time. And God, I was so pissed. So pissed when it was over. I was like, you screwed me out of this. And he gave him a takedown on the edge too. He gave him a takedown on the edge, like with no reaction time. Like my hip came up and faced him. And he's like, it was to me, that was one of the few matches where I was like, I got a little home jobbed on that one. Like most of the time, hey, you get beat, you got beat. But that one was a little like, if we neutral site or neutral referee, there's no way.
I wish I could see video of that.
Yeah.
It sounds like the time that Jesse Delgado beat McDonough twice in one match at Carver.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
when you said that Iowa used to hire the referees, you said used to. Okay. I'm going to mark that down. Used to. But okay, we'll move on.
They did. Yeah, now the Big Ten referees are assigned. Not that, maybe one is more, prone to call it the way that, one team wants it called, but now they're assigned. They weren't assigned back then. No lie. You literally reached out and got, now it was a group of referees that were approved. Like you couldn't just get anybody, right? But you literally hired, like, hey, I want so-and-so to do this match because you knew that, he never called stalling, or he did call stalling, or he likes fast back points, or whatever, whatever the style was for that referee, you would hire the ref. Just ridiculous system.
We're still haven't won the national championship in 2001. You have to go out and face Jared Lawrence again. How'd that go?
Yeah. So, I think we both kind of knew that was going to be a pretty big match to whoever won was going to have a good chance to win the tournament. Reggie had already gotten beat early in the tournament, and I want to say it was Freyer on the other side and Esposito. And came out. I ended up getting the first takedown of the match off a scramble, and then got him in an armbar and rode him out the whole first period, and that was a pretty big deal. And second period, got an escape, and then ended up getting a takedown right at the end of the period to go up 5-0, and that was pretty much it. So, I mean, it was, it's hard to turn around a result from just a week and a half ago. And, but I did and was able to beat him. And then, had one more shot in the finals, and I beat Esposito twice. Also, I was 2-0 against him going into the finals, and, knew
Was
he'd
it
have,
that year? Was it that year?
one was that year. One was, 2 years prior, I want to say.
Okay.
And he, I knew he'd have a different strategy because if you lost to somebody twice, you got to change things up. And
He's a twisty fellow. I mean,
yeah, Dave is a good wrestler.
Inside trips, outside trips, twisting around. He was pretty sneaky.
Yeah, Dave had some good tricks. But I just tried to stay solid and, eventually end up getting the first takedown and then just, kind of stayed ahead and ended up winning the match.
Well, I noticed that one of your hands was wrapped up like it was a baseball glove. What was going on there?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that happens is sometimes you jam your fingers, jam your thumbs. A thumb is one of the most painful ones. And I think that was at that time probably a jam my thumb. And, it's like one of those things that you think is healed, a day or 2, 3 days later. And then as soon as you hit it again, it's just incredibly painful. So, probably wrapped up for that reason. But I mean, listen, anybody who's wrestled at that level knows that, I mean, you go into the nationals, like it's the ultimate test of toughness. Like everybody's banged up. You're just hoping you're not injured, like seriously injured.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got, aches and pains. And we used to joke about, like, if you don't have something that, is ailing you, like you didn't train hard enough, you're not ready. So, I mean, I love watching I still go to the nationals, and went this year in Detroit. And I love watching day 3. Day 3 is my favorite because it's like, we always talk about toughness and guys who, literally toughest guys on the planet could persevere through anything. And some of those guys are just like, they're like mummies. They're just walking bandages but they're wrestling, I mean, I've seen some of the toughest wrestling, some of the grittiest performances on day 3, when, hey, you're not forfeiting out. I'm going for it. I'm here now. And it's pretty cool. I love to take my son went for the first time this year and just show him what it's like. And said, we have no idea what hurt is, what injured is. And these guys fight through so much stuff. So anyway, to answer your question, like, sure, my hand was banged up, but it wasn't too bad. Definitely better than some other people.
Yeah. Well, it looked like you built up a lead against Esposito. And then at the last few seconds, he tried to gator bacon. What was that?
No, he tried to cut me back off the single leg because I had the leg up in the air, and he had to score. So, I mean, it made sense. But then, just was able to counter and finished. So that was pretty much the match.
And that was the championship. So what do you tell, you've been through it. What do you tell the guy in the high school locker room, or not the high school locker room, the state championship locker room, as 2 minutes before he's getting out there to wrestle?
I think just try to enjoy it. That's one of the biggest things is just trying to enjoy the moment, try to relax. Same mat size, same referee, same rules, same everything. It may feel different, but it's the same. You give your best performances when you're relaxed and confident, and you're just willing to go out there and wrestle. When other stuff starts creeping in, then it gets a lot tougher. Are
you a Tom Brand slap him in the face type coach?
I'm a whatever the kid needs type coach. Like if some kids do better with getting riled up, and some kids don't. Whatever makes your athlete wrestle their best. Sometimes it's not you in the corner. Sometimes it's another coach in the corner. Whatever helps them wrestle their best, they've earned it. I mean, at that point, believe me, they've been through a lot. They've had a lot of tears, a lot of negative moments, a lot of us ripping them for various reasons. But when you get to, you've earned it at that point, and whatever's going to help you wrestle your best, then just go out there and give it all you got.
I got almost the same response from Coach Poeta. So Coach Tirapelle and Coach Poeta, guys are on the same page there. That I'm almost word for word. That's pretty cool, because I would be totally different. I'd be the yell and scream coach, and that's probably not the coach they need for some of the kids. Now, after winning that championship, you won all kinds of awards at Illinois, the Dyke Edelman Male Athlete of the Year Award. You were most valuable wrestler. And then you went on to coach at Illinois. So did you get some degrees there, some extra degrees, masters?
Yeah. So I went and got my MBA in finance after I was done wrestling and graduated.
And what was your undergraduate in?
Kinesiology.
Okay. And then you made it back to California and you started coaching.
Yeah, came back here. My first job was in Southern California. And then I ended up having an opportunity back in the Clovis area. So I came back here and started helping my dad coach a little bit. I liked the sport and I hadn't been doing anything with it in a year and a half or 2 years. And the more I did it, the more I liked it, and just wanted to help the kids get, have the same opportunities or at least similar opportunities to what I had. And, we had so much more knowledge when we came back from college, myself and my brothers, even my dad, who got to see the whole thing, that we could help kids with. So just trying to give them the same opportunities that we had, that, hey, this is what it takes. If you want to do it, we'll help you get there. And if you don't, then that's up to you. But it's nice.
And you started the Winner's Circle. What was that all about?
Yeah. So when I came back, my brother had just graduated. My youngest brother, was 2004. And so they'd lost a bunch of kids that obviously he'd wrestled with, my dad had coached. And so our team was pretty down relative to Clovis. It was, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the standard that we normally had. And I'm super intense coming out of college, right? I mean, I don't even understand anything but Division I level at a high level. So I came back and I remember going to practice and then there wouldn't be, kids weren't there. And I'm like, hey, where's so-and-so? Like, he's not here. I'm like, what do you mean he's not here? Like, I mean, at college, nobody ever missed practice. Like, nobody was not there. Like, everybody's there every day. I mean, you're talking, but again, I'm used to a level that's, so far above where they're at. And so anyway, the Winner's Circle story was, so we finished the year, didn't do that well. We had one kid that would end up a state champion. He was a senior, but nobody else even placed to the state. And so I started the Winner's Circle, and it was basically like, hey, listen, we're not doing this kind of half-ass effort. Like, if you want to do it, this is what it takes to be successful. I can help you out, but you're going to do what I tell you to do. Like, you're going to do what it takes. So we're going to, you're going to lift weights. I saw the Illinois weight program, and they had a phenomenal, weight program there. And so basically our high school kids got the opportunity to use that modified version, but got to use it. And then just wrestling wise. And so anyway, I started this program. I was like, hey, but if you're going to do it, you're going to be here. I think 70% of the time is what we first started out at. And, so it was like, it was kind of unique in the fact that, most off-season programs are like, hey, whenever you can get here. And I'm like, no, not whenever you can get here. I'm going to be here. So if you're either going to commit to doing this or you're going to commit to not doing it. You're going to make a commitment one way or the other. And I was surprised. I actually learned a lot that year that, hey, kids don't want to be told they can't do something. Like, they don't always want to be there, but they surely don't want to be kicked out. So we actually had quite a few kids, about 20 some kids, maybe 22 or 23 kids that first year. And that was my first group. We ended up winning the state in 2008, a couple years later. And so anyway, so the Winner's Circle just kind of became a staple of the program. It's what we do in the off season. It's how we practice. It's how we get better and just get prepared for the next year.
Yeah, that sounds great. And something new at that time. Now, what about, there's a new thing called the club?
Yeah. So the club is, so during COVID, we live in California, in Illinois, I know similar, but we live in California. So everything got shut down. Schools got shut down. And we got basically into about October of that year. And my brother coaches at Buchanan, the rival school, and they've actually beat us last several years. And I told him, I said, hey, listen, we're not going to wrestle, man. we're not wrestling. Like, I'm telling you, they're not going to be any high school wrestling this year. So we ended up turning an old auto body shop into a wrestling room, basically a real padded wall mat, double mat wrestling room. And so that's where we wrestled literally from December 1st. It took us a while to get it done. From December 1st all the way through, that winter and that spring, gave the high school kids an opportunity to, we basically combined teams. So, the big rival schools in the area, are basically now training together. It was weird for about a week, but but we talked to the kids and we're like, listen, this is what it is. Like, either you want to wrestle or you don't. We're all on the same team while we're in here. It's going to be kind of a unique experience, but we're going to train together. We're going to get better together, and we'll wrestle together. And then when, the COVID thing kind of goes away, then we'll be back to our own schools. So it was actually really fun. I ended up keeping it going. I have some younger kids. My oldest son will be a 7th grader next year, and my younger son will be a 4th grader. And then I have a daughter who'll be a 1st grader. And the boys, I kept it going for junior high and younger, just to help coach younger kids. So we've still been using the club, and we run it like October through April.
That's fantastic. Well, you bringing up your son, that reminds me about something. I want to bring up my son. He was wrestling at the Mahomet-Seymour youth program. For the year-end banquet, they had a special guest speaker, and his name was Adam Tirapelle. And so my little boy, when he was 5, he got to meet you. And it was just awesome to see, because he was so happy, because I built you up big time on the car ride there and during the chicken dinner. And I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think you were still in training right then for that final 2001 national championship. Well, you weren't able to eat your chicken dinner. Do you have any recollection? I'm sure you did a bunch of them.
I don't that specifically. No, I did do quite a few of those things. I mean, all of our kids on the team and just the coaching is always about, obviously you wanted to train and be prepared for your own competitions, but just try to give back to the community and make sure that, we did summer camps and did fun stuff with the kids. Just, I mean, they appreciate that. If you get to that level, then you have a little responsibility to help other kids, at least get a taste of it, and hopefully, get to that level someday too.
Yeah. Well, you made my boy happy. That made me happy. And so that's how the world turns, I guess.
Yeah.
But the question I want to be very specific about this, because I've had this question in my mind. Do you recall going to any of those banquets where you couldn't eat because you were training?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a while, but yeah, no, I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking your time, you're volunteering your time, you're doing a good deed, and you can't even eat the chicken. That's nuts. Thank you.
It's all about priorities. I mean, if you want to be, successful, if you want to be at the elite level, it becomes all you're doing. All you're focused on, and you don't even actually realize that until you get out of it. That's what's actually kind of cool. I appreciate my experiences a lot more today than I did in 2000, 2001, 2002, because, you just come to accept it as normal, and it's not normal. And it's not normal in a really cool way that, you're doing something that very few people can do, and you're training in a way that very few people can do. I mean, it's just very, very, it's very unique. And once the farther away from it you get, you realize, like I said, I love to go to the NCAAs every year, just because it's like, it actually makes me feel good. It's like, man, I actually did that at one time. Those guys are tough son of bitches, I mean, that is one bad group.
I know that.
I was one of those guys.
That.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you about you. You're also was it a SEMA? What is that?
Yeah, so it's a designation and certified investment management analyst. Basically, you gotta do a few different tests. You gotta go take a course. It used to be, I went back to Wharton in Pennsylvania and stayed there for a week, and learn from their professors and take a course. It's pretty high level designation. There's not a lot of people that have it. I think it's like 1% or 2% of advisors, of people in my line of work. Not that anybody can't get it, but it costs money and it takes work.
So describe your line of work and tell us what you do during like a normal day.
Yeah, so we own our own wealth management practice. So I started out at what we call wirehouses, Merrill Lynch, and then we were at Wells Fargo for about 10 years. And then me and my business partner decided we could do this on our own. Believe it or not, I attribute everything in my life to wrestling one way or another. I probably never would have been confident enough to do it without wrestling. But we had to literally leave our job, quit that day and try to bring all of our clients with us start a new business, be able to run it, have a new, have a lease. I mean, all the things that it takes. And it's a pretty scary event when you're used to something that's comfortable. But I mean, I always said I wrestled in front of 17,000 people. Like there's nothing more nerve wracking than, something you work your whole life for and you got one chance left, wrestling the NCAA finals. And, if you lose, you'll never get it back. It's not that your life will be bad, but it's just like, hey, this is it. So you do those things and the rest of it is a Dan Gable, right? Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy.
So what's the name of your business?
Strong Valley Wealth and Pension.
And what do you guys do for like a normal day?
So we do financial planning. We talk to clients. We, make sure nothing is changed in their life or, their portfolios need to change. We keep them updated on what we're doing. We do discretionary management. So we're managing people's money. But in times like this, this is where, people need, they need to talk to, us and hear what we think and what's going on in the markets. And then we do some pension plans as well. So it's purely wealth management, financial planning, but it's full service and try to take care of people. Just like Illinois wrestling took care of me and they make sure you got everything closed and, things are washed and, the coaches treat you like family. It's the same thing we do, but we do it in the investment world and we try to make it easy for people. So they want to stay with us.
That's awesome. Adam, I wanted to ask you this. Do you have any funny stories that you can recall from your college days, Illinois, CAMs, anything along those lines about Mark Johnson, Hef?
Oh God. I mean, there's so many stories with Mark. He would just talk. We had a great relationship. We had a really good relationship, developed over over the years I was there. And we had a lot of similarities. We're both very straightforward and, and hard headed and, all of this. So we butted heads sometimes, but like I said, we're still really good friends. Oh God, there's all kinds of stories with Mark and, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like I remember one of the things with Mark was he liked routine, whenever we'd stop on the bus, he'd get like tuna fish sandwich, Diet Coke. It's like never deviate, never deviate. Same thing, like the same movies. We'd watch the same movies. He was a Braveheart fan, thank God. But good, any mafia movie you'd watch, this is back VHS days, right? It was the same movies every single time, same food. He had to stop at the same places. So we used to start off. I remember the first year I was there. We started off the year and we would do some running, just to kind of get in shape. And obviously you don't want to wear yourself down the whole year, just beating each other up. So we'd start off with running. And the first year I was there, I remember we started off with 3 miles and we'd go run around the farm or whatever the course was. And then as the years went on, it was like, we'd work up to like 4 or 5 miles. And as years went on, it'd be like first run, it'd be like 5 miles. We're like, hey, what happened to 3 miles? Like, did we skipped over that? He's like, well, so-and-so, I won't use names, but he's like, so-and-so on the team he's fat right now. And I'm like, who gives a shit? I go, he's 4th string. That guy's not wrestling. I go, the rest of us are in shape. Like, what are we running 5 miles for? So it was those kind of interactions. We just go back and forth on, but Mark is a character. Like I said, wrestling for him was pretty awesome. And there's so many things that like, you could get up and do a whole skit with Mark Johnson and his sayings and all the things that happened. But yeah, that was one of them. Said he really loved routine. Everything was routine. He'd like to go early in the morning because he got up early. He was the guy that went to Gold's Gym or whatever with the policemen and the firemen, which by the way is a totally different story. If you ever got in trouble, he knew everybody. And he'd go at 5 in the morning or whatever. And so he always wanted to get up early. And he's like, hey, we got to change it up. We got to go early. We got to change it up. And we're like, hey, all right, let's change it up. Let's go to 11 p.m. He's like, no, we're not doing that. That's past my bedtime. I'm like, well, you said to change it up. So really you just want to go early because you like early. But everyone loved Mark. He's a character. But he had a ton of respect. We always called him the mayor. That everybody in town knew Mark. Everybody liked him. In fact, if you even mentioned you were a wrestler, you'd have to hear about how great Mark Johnson was from whoever you're talking to. So it was an excellent program to be a part of. I know we weren't national champions as a team, but there's trade-offs in life, and I wouldn't have traded
Well,
him.
in fact, your senior year, the Illini got as high as they've ever gotten at the NCAA championships within 46 years. I think that was the number. So it really was a golden age. And you were a big part of that. And of course, Mark Johnson started the ball rolling. What about any Hef stories? Do you have any Hef stories?
So Hep was always kind of the silent guy. You know, he was the guy that everybody knew Mark and loved Mark because he was kind of the face, and he was a big handshaker and not in a bad way. I mean, he was just very personable. You know, everybody could talk to him. Hef, you got to get to know Hef, but Hef's one of those guys that, like, if you don't know, you think that, you know, I don't say you don't like him, but you either don't know him or you love him. Like, he's the guy that would do anything for you. I mean, he's the guy that's taken our clothes out and washing them, you know, at the NCAA tournament on Friday night or Thursday night. I mean, he's just a great guy. Great. It said that they treated it like it was more than a wrestling team. It wasn't just about like, hey, show up in the wrestling room, do your thing. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah. It was, we went over their houses for Thanksgiving meals for those of us who were far away. I said it was so much more than just the coaching. It said you always felt like you're part of a family, and that's, can't say enough about that, because how important that is when you're doing something you're invested in, like wrestling, how hard it is, and when you got people from all over the country. So it just made it go by super fast. I don't think I have any great Hef stories. I've heard some legendary ones, but I mean, he wasn't as much of a. It said we loved Hef, but Mark was the one that had all like the weird quirks, and we would all laugh at.
Okay, well, before we end this, I just wanted to thank you. The Tirapelle brothers were such a major influence on Illinois wrestling. I mean, you cannot understate that. Between what you and Alex and Troy did, and my goodness, I wish Troy had not gotten hurt, and Alex banged up. But what you guys did was some amazing stuff. You created the golden era, and I enjoyed watching it. I know all Illini wrestling fans enjoyed watching you. And so I wanted to thank you for that, and thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We still try to stay in contact and, support the program how we can. I was out there last year and talked to the team and financially, and send them kids from our own programs. I know some Buchanan kids have gone there now, and some Clovis kids. So we'll keep trying to support the Illini how we can.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.